Hello and welcome back to the Eastman Sport Report, your father-son coach player NorCal Sports podcast. I'm joined once again by my lovely co-host Stephen Eastman.
Hello, Max. How you doing there today? It's a lovely Sunday afternoon after draft missed weekend.
Well, I'm kind of sick and tired. It was stuff yesterday.
He had some fun.
I did.
He's a high school kid having some fun. Okay,
Whatever.
Good, cool. So, I'll talk a lot today. Okay, so here we are with our episode 8 of the Eastman Sport Report, and this is our draft review. Now, I do want to say all this type of stuff here. I love doing research on the draft. I do not watch college football, so I really am. I am scouring the web so that our listeners do not have to, and you just listen to the Eastman Sport Report and get all your information you need. So that's the service that we provide here on the Eastman Sport Report for draft miss stuff. Other stuff is our, unique content. Anyway, let's get into it. The fun of the draft, where the Niners bring in a whole bunch of new players, and everybody did a good job, and everybody picked amazing, and everybody got exactly what they wanted in the draft, and there's nothing that went wrong in the draft ever, right?
I'll talk about that in a little bit. The first thing I want to say is that going into the draft, there are a lot of draft day rumors that Brandon Ayuk is going to be traded in the first round, and then the Niners were going to draft someone like let's say Marvin Harrison type player to replace him. That didn't happen. So
I was not expecting that to happen.
I didn't expect it to happen either.
Yeah.
It was just baloney rumors.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Shanahan has said they listen to all rumors. They listen to all trade offers.
If
And
let's say the Dolphins want to trade us Tyreek Hill for Brandon Ayuk, yes. Give him, please.
he's often quoted as saying, if John Lynch gets an offer he can't refuse for me, he should trade me. So Kyle Shanahan says that about himself. So if there's a rumor out there about Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, you're like, hey, I've got good players. Other teams want them. I will listen, but you'd better blow me away if you want them. So that's what I take out of all draft rumors that come out of, or trade rumors about the Niners. Niners usually do a really good job of either being equal or, I would say, winning the trades. So that's where we're at there.
Okay. I just want to dive into this, my little rant that I'm going to have.
You go for it, Max.
Okay. So on top of all this, we have our two wide receiver ones. Brandon Ayuk would be a wide receiver one on, I think, about 90% of NFL teams right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not a controversial topic. Then again, there's a lot of good wide receivers out there, so I don't know how many teams this exactly applies to, but anyway. So the biggest draft needs, in my opinion, going into this season was we have a really good, first off, I'll say this, we have a really good let's say three-pronged trident attack of wide receiver, and you can also add George Kittle and Chris McCaffrey into this. But for wide receivers, we have Deebo Samuel, who's our wide back. He's really good. Made Pro Bowl 2 seasons ago, and then Brandon Ayuk, who made second-team All-Pro, and Juan Jennings, who was 3rd-and-1, who defenders just forget about because we have 5 other really good ball catchers. So, going into this draft, my biggest concerns for the Niners were offensive linemen and our secondary, more specifically cornerback. I thought that was lacking, especially since how the Super Bowl went and other things, how Brock Purdy wasn't necessarily protected a lot, even though he's really good under QB pressure. If he could have more time, that'd be great. Colton McKivitz gave up 11 sacks this season, so maybe giving him some competition would motivate him, or just finding someone better than him. And then cornerbacks, we have Chavarius Mooney Ward, who is our amazing cornerback, locking down people like DK Metcalf and I forget Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, on the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
So he's done really good, so we need someone beside him. So John Lynch goes out and draft Ricky Pearsall, a wide receiver from Florida. Why? We looked into stuff, and he's a really good route runner. He's really good against man defense, which Deebo is not really good against. Deebo is really good against zone defense. But, why? You get him in the later round. He's Mel Kiper ranked him as the 10th overall wide receiver, so you could have got him much later in the draft. So why would you draft him in the first round when someone else like Cooper DeJean, the best cornerback in the draft, fell right into your lap and you ignored him completely?
Would you like me to answer that question for you?
Sure.
At least I will try to answer it from John Lintz's perspective. I think the Niners did go looking for a tackle, and there wasn't one available at the 31st pick. Now, why didn't they trade up to get one? I don't know. Maybe the asking price was too much, but I totally agree with you. They wanted an offensive tackle, and they couldn't get one. I think they even wanted to get one in the second round, and the guy they wanted that they've been looking at was drafted right in front of them, and then they traded back. So I totally agree with you. They were looking for tackles, and they did not want to reach for one, so they went for something else. Now, Max brought up a good point. Why did they draft Ricky Pearsall? First off, call him by his nickname. His nickname is Slick Rick.
No.
You don't want to call him Slick Rick?
Later.
Okay. Max is tired, so we're not going to call him.
Maybe in the regular season when he actually does stuff.
Okay. So his strong suit is route running and catching the ball. He had the best hands of anybody in college football last year.
I'll agree with that.
His one-handed catch was amazing. That was the highlight of the year. So that was amazing. They actually say that they practice those. He actually was quoted as there was a receiving coach at Florida. They practice those so that they become normal. Mm-hmm. So they actually do that. So that's actually something that he's used to. Mock drafts people did not have him as first-round pick. But why did the Niners draft him is if you look back at their most recent game against the Super Bowl, the Chiefs played man against him. They pretty much shut down Deebo Samuel. And every time Deebo Samuel wasn't out there, they basically no other wide receiver besides Ayuk. The other team could double team Ayuk, and all you got is Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle after that. And you're like, now those are good players, but you got to have a respectable wide receiver. Now, Juan Jennings is okay. I like the guy, but he still had, 12 to 15 catches last year? Like, that's not a lot for your third wide receiver. Like, they brought in Chris Conley. He moved himself up, but he's nothing really to stretch, to write home about. He's not that great. They had a serious wide receiver deficit. Now, you don't think about that because they had three really good top ones, but they drafted Danny Gray. He's doing nothing. He has one catch for 2 seasons. Now he's injured, but he never was good enough to come off of injured reserve last year. And I think they had a couple others and did nothing last year. So they needed depth in the wide receiver room. Now, why did you get in the first round pick? Why wouldn't you do that in the second or third? I don't know. Maybe they just we like Ricky Pearsall and there's no offensive tackle. Why didn't they go for Cooper DeJean or even Kool-Aid McKinstry for a cornerback? I don't know. Maybe we'll eventually someday find out. But I do like Ricky Pearsall. He's great against man defense, which is what we're going to probably run into more because of what the Chiefs did to us. So that's why. Would you like to hear some fun stuff I've heard about Ricky?
Sure.
So I was listening to an interview with him. He's actually been playing. He played with Brandon Ayuk. Mm-hmm. And he says the one wide receiver that he models his game after is Brandon Ayuk. So, hey, that's a good compliment. Okay. So, okay. When he was little, or both his parents were athletes. So his dad was actually played college. I'm trying to see, did he play NFL? He was a returner. I know his dad played special teams, at least in college, if not in the NFL. So he has an athletic family. I think his mom did something too. I forget. He actually in high school played against Purdy, and his quote was, "Yeah, Purdy scored 70 on us." so he's like, "Yeah, Purdy was really good back then." His dad was an All-American receiver in college at Northern Arizona. I found it in my notes. Other fun note: when his dad was little, Ricky was little, and his dad was out there playing with him to get him to try to catch the ball. Mm-hmm. He would give him Skittles every time he caught the ball. Every time he got the ball, he got a Skittles. Okay. It's yeah, that is a true story. So, should I give Max an M&M every time he makes a basket, and an Oreo every time he makes a 3?
Maybe.
Would that entice you to get out there and go shooting, make some more buckets? Anyway, he's tired today. He's not going to go for any. But that was kind of a fun thing. I thought, like, hey, he goes and gets that's my fun story about Ricky Pearsall.
Look more into the rest of our draft.
Okay, let's go to round number. That was a 10 minutes opener, all on Ricky Pearsall. Pick number 2. Now, I do have to say, I hope some of these draft picks we're probably going to murder their names, so don't not quote us on their pronunciations. I think his name is Renardo Green.
Just call him Green.
Okay, so Green, he was at Florida State. Mm-hmm. Ricky Pearsall was from Florida, because they did actually play each other. The good things I've heard about Green is when he played LSU and they were playing Jaden Daniels and one of the other top wide receivers. There was 3 really good wide receivers out of the draft besides Marvin Harrison's. There was 2 others. One of them was from LSU. Green went out and shut down that guy. First game of the season last year. So Green is underrated. I think he only had the 1 interception, but he had 14 pass breakups last year. Only allowed 1 catch for more than 20 yards the whole season. So he was a shutdown corner in college. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he was a stretch or not, but the Niners liked him. And this is a recurring theme of the rest of the Niners draft picks. He's a ball of muscle. He's 186 pounds, and he hits you, you feel it.
He's 5'10".
He's 5'10", 186 pounds. Like, that is a ball of muscle playing defensive back. His attitude is what you want as a defensive back. He's like, I'm a dog. As in, I'm aggressive, I'm always going, I'm always biting, I'm always out there doing stuff. So with him, I think the defensive back has been definitely improved over last year because you basically had Travarius Mooney-Ward and Lenore. And they were searching for a third cornerback. Mm-hmm. So this year they signed free agents Isaac Yidam, which I don't really know him, Rockian Saw, Ambry Thomas, who's not done a whole lot. I expect a little bit more of Darrell Luter, but it's been like 2 seasons. He hasn't done a whole lot. And Samuel Womack, I kind of liked him when those 2 came out, but they haven't done much. And so they got some more competition in there. So I see where they're going with Green. I see where they're going. That's my opinion. Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to add on Green?
Not really. Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, moving on to Pooney. 3rd round pick, offensive lineman Dominic Pooney from Kansas. He actually took a 30 visit, which means the Niners are allowed up to 30 players to come visit the Niners in headquarters, so he was one of them. But he was one of them that there was 6 or 7 that were unreported, so he was one of the few unreported ones, which is the teams like those because then the other teams don't know who they like. So he was a hush-hush, come in, go out, don't post on social media that you're here type of thing, and so he got them in. He did not allow a single sack in 25 straight starts, playing both tackle and guard. So nearly 1,600 snaps, did not allow a single sack. Okay.
Pretty good.
Yeah. You're going to play both tackle and guard. Will have to choose a position. I like from the aspect of he could be, if he doesn't push Feliciano for a starting spot, he's probably your 6th best offensive lineman right away. And he can play every position.
Nice.
Yeah. So I don't think he played center, but he played right tackle, left tackle, left tackle, and left guard all at Kansas. So love the versatility of him. In the 4th round, we had 3 draft picks. I like his last name. Safety, Malik Mustafa.
You're trying to have more fun because I'm tired, aren't you?
Yes, okay. I am.
Yeah, I like it.
It's kind of like a Mufasa, but also the Mustafa as in I must stop you.
It's a PH, so is it Mustafa?
Anyway, I think it's Mustafa. Anyway, so this is an interesting pick, and him and who was the other one?
Green?
No, another defensive back. Was it one of the linebackers, or was it our safety? Didn't we draft a safety?
He's the safety.
Oh, he is the safety. Mustafa?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's the safety.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Must have been a linebacker we got.
He was in the 7th round, our last pick.
Okay. he plays in a lot of different positions. So Mustafa, this is going to recurring theme, ball of muscles, and plays multiple positions. So Brandon Staley, who came from the Chargers, in his defense, which we don't know exactly what his role is on the Niners, but he liked having a star player. And a star player as in a guy who can go out in some possession, some snaps he's a linebacker, some snaps he's a cornerback, some snaps he's a safety. So this kind of star position that you go out and play these multiple positions. And Mustafa did that in college where he played multiple spots. So he was a standard safety. He played single high safety. Sometimes played the linebacker, sometimes played the nickel spot. So he says he wore a lot of different hats. So that's some of the quotes of what he did. This was another guy. He's 5'10", 210 pounds. Now I'm 5'10", and I weigh about 175. He probably has less fat on it than I do. Okay, I'm 40 something. Mm-hmm. 210 pounds. Man, was he the guy that I said, look at his calves or quads?
We said he was Quadzilla, as well with mini Quadzilla of Brock Purdy and Nick Bosa.
Yeah. If you see a picture of that guy, Mustafa, man, his legs are just tree trunks. He's just, and if you think about it, we have not re-signed to Sean Gibson. So our starters look like they're going to be Jair Brown and Hufanga. Both of them are younger players, so we need a third safety. So I'm like, okay, I see where they're going with Mustafa. In the fourth round, I really like this guy, Isaac Guarendo. I like that one. I like that pronunciation, Guarendo. We'll call him Isaac. I heard him compared to like a Raheem Mostert, but more physical. Where he is, he ran the fastest
4.33
fastest 40 time at the combine for running back. 4.33, awesome. He's a one cut and go kind of player. So in the kind of Niners offense, he's exactly what you want. Again, I forgot the size of this guy, but he's 221 pounds, and he goes 4.33.
He's 6'1". He's like my height.
Yeah, so he's 6'1", 221 pounds, but he runs a 4.33. That's a strong, fast dude, and that's the reoccurring theme, I would say, of this is all the Niners draft were strong, fast, and versatile dudes. So he started as a wide receiver, moved back to the backfield, and eventually did running back. So if you're looking at a kind of a backup to Christian McCaffrey, you got to be able to catch the ball and be able to work out of the backfield. So he has that. So at least on paper, he looks like a dream fit from that perspective. Now, does he actually go out and do it? I could say that about all of our draft picks, but at least from that perspective, he looks really good. I found a couple other athletic ratings, and from a explosiveness grade, he is elite. His speed rating is elite. His agility is in the great category. His overall was this athletic rating that I found. He got a 9.97, I think, out of 10 for Isaac Guarnido. So he's an athlete. His vertical jump is 97 percentile. Now his arms are a little shorter and his hand size are a little smaller. But you're like, he's, whatever. Okay, in the fourth round, so he was the guy that we traded both our fifth round picks to trade up and get that guy, Isaac, the running back. And then in the fourth round, we ended it with another wide receiver. And for some aspect, I'm like, another wide receiver? But if you go back to my previous discussion of we didn't have much depth last year outside of our top three, so if CMA got hurt, we were done for. A quote I found about Jacob Cowing, so he's a wide receiver at Arizona, Jacob Cowing. He plays with a jetpack on his back. Again, another fast guy. He had a 4.38 40. He's 5'8", so he's very much a slot speed guy. Other thing you could say here is he is experienced at punt returner. So going into the draft, the Niners basically had really no one to play punt return, and now Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing could both do that. I think also the Isaac Guarnido running back, he also could be a kick returner. I think the Isaac guy could. because of his
His
speed.
new playoff rules are going to be really good for him because he can just hit right in between people because he's a small ball of muscle.
Yeah.
And he's running at like 30 miles per hour.
Well, 6'1's not totally small, but he's your size. He actually might be shorter than you.
We'll never know.
Yeah. So Jacob Cowing, I think, was a little bit of a surprise, but I think it really points to the fact that if you draft 2 wide receivers, you were not happy with your wide receivers last year. I would say because of drafting 2 wide receivers, Danny Gray's chance of staying on the Niners,
almost 0.
Yeah, I was going to say less than 1%. So, yeah. Any thoughts on those 4th round picks? I've been talking a lot, Max. Any thoughts there?
Not really. I don't see I don't see much impact from a lot of them except for Green and Pooney on the Niners, in my opinion. Maybe a little bit from Malik Mustafa, but otherwise I don't see a lot of impact coming from these players.
I think a lot of these guys with running backs, wide receivers, safeties, defensive backs, these are going to be your core special teamers next year. This coming year. They're going to be your core special teams. Ricky Pearsall is probably the only one that's going to be a consistent player. The rest of them are all depth and insurance and special team players.
I think Isaac Guillermo is going to be our 3rd string running back behind. I think he and Elijah Mitchell are going to fight for the 2nd spot behind Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, what does it mean for Mason? Who he might beat out Mason. Hopefully he's good enough to beat out Mason because I like Mason. Maybe he's replaces Mason as our 3rd stringer.
I don't know.
And from there, the interesting thing is so the Niners traded away their 5ths, both of their 5ths, to move up to get Isaac Guerno. They didn't have a whole lot of openings, so I kind of like the fact that you get 2 5s to get a 4, and then from there you only had a 6 and a 7. So like in making the 53-man roster next year, making the team, Ricky Pearsall is probably definitely going to make it. Renardo Green's your 2nd-round pick is going to make it. Your 3rd rounder, Dominic Pooney, since he's going to make it. And then you have your 3 4th-rounders, Mustafa as a safety, which I think at safety we were weak, so I think that's fine. Running back, Isaac Guerno, I think you could. Wide receiver, Jacob Cowing, I think is going to be in a fight, but I think he can make it because normally keep 5 or 6 wide receivers. The next 2 players in our 6th and 7th picks, offensive lineman Jarrett Kingston from USC, and then Tatum linebacker Tatum Bethune? I think Bethune. Those guys are going to have a hard time making the team, in my opinion. That's totally just out of numbers, but we'll see how they end up being there. So a little bit about Jarrett Kingston. He's offensive lineman. He had a background playing tight end and defensive end before he moved over to offensive lineman. And they listed as offensive lineman, so he played multiple positions. He played both tackle and guard. He's probably not going to be great right off the bat, but maybe he's a developmental pick. And it's always like an offensive lineman. You got to get enough in there for training camp and those types of things, and see how things shake out with that. Interesting note about Kingston: he's actually from Northern California. He's from the town of Anderson, which is up near Redding. So he is in Northern California. Interesting part, though, is even though he grew up in Northern California, he's a Rams fan.
Odd.
Yeah.
Those exist?
Yeah. Rams fans in Northern California do exist. That's kind of weird.
That's strange.
And his athletic score, I went through Guerno's athletic score. He gets a 9.90. So he was elite in explosiveness for both speed for an offensive lineman, and speed for an explosiveness for an offensive lineman. Totally speaks to the Niners athletic offensive lineman. And then linebacker, the last round pick, he was a violent hitter, I saw. He's 5'11", 229 pounds. Again, fast, athletic, balls of muscle, which is the reoccurring theme about it here. He racked up 26 pressures on blitzes. He was FSU's best practice player, I found a quote. And he did have a 30 visit to the Niners. So there's your recap of the draft. I'm interested to see how they do. Of course, the draft is always fun, and not everybody's going to hit. Interesting free agent signings. Did you look at the list of the Niners signed in the undrafted free agents? They actually signed. So there was a whole bunch of Niners previous sons in the draft. So they didn't. Luke McCaffrey got drafted
You
by.
couldn't get Frank. I forget. And Frank Gore Jr. I think went to the Bills.
Yeah, as an undrafted guy. I think Jerry Rice's son got drafted in the 6th or 7th round, so we couldn't get him. But we got Terrell Owens' son, Tariq Owens, signed as a free agent. So we did get one of our former players' sons. They got some other guys that you're like, they're great to come in, and there's usually one or two often undrafted guys that do something in free agent. Or
we'll learn about them later, but we don't know who they are.
In training camp. Yeah. So there's your recap from my point of view on the Eastman Sport Report on that.
I'm not really a big of a draft guy. I don't look at that stuff. I look at more free agency than that big mumbo jumbo heap that it is.
I think the draft is fun. Are there interesting things that came out of the draft weekend?
Mm-hmm.
Is there something else you want to talk about in the draft?
Not really.
Okay,
Yes,
so other big things that came out of draft weekend, not draft related, was Roger Goodell said he would prefer to have 18 regular season games and only 2 preseason games. He wants to go down to 2 preseason games, and with 18 regular season games, that pushes back the Super Bowl to President's Day weekend, so everybody can have a 3-day weekend to watch the Super Bowl. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I can almost guarantee it's eventually going to happen. But he's probably got to float the balloon out there enough times and get people to agree with it before it actually happens.
I think that if they want to have an 18-game regular season, they have to have another bye week in there. Because at that point, 18 games and only 1 week off is a lot.
That is a lot. But then you'd be pushing out even farther unless you start over. But they don't want to start over.
Hold on. Let's say your bye week is in week 6 and you go out and go to the Super Bowl. That's how many weeks in a row of straight football?
Because that'd be 12 plus, if you don't get and only one team gets the bye.
Mm-hmm. If you don't get the bye, that's about 12 straight weeks of just football.
Well, it's 12 just to get to the playoffs,
yes.
And then you could have another 4 after that. So you could have like 16. That's like almost 4 months of no
breaks, just football.
Yeah. So I think that would be interesting to see whether they can squeeze in a bye week. The other interesting notes from an NFL perspective was the first game happening in Brazil was announced. Mm-hmm. So exciting for Sao Paulo, Brazil. And I think it's opening weekend it is. So they're doing the opening kickoff, which is probably the Chiefs hosting somebody. Because that's always the Super Bowl champions hosting somebody. I wish it was in Levi Stadium was that game, but it's not. We lost. Then they'll have the Friday night game on opening weekend is in Brazil, which I guess is also because it's Brazil. They don't have to work in another bye week for those teams. They just put it earlier so they have a couple days for travel home. And then the other thing that I heard recently was the mayor in London.
Oh, yeah, that.
Wants to try to get the Super Bowl in London.
I think that's going to need about another 50 years, after 100 Super Bowls in America, that you can actually move it to. America's biggest sport and the biggest event in America, moving it to another country. I think that's going to have to be a while for that to happen.
I know. I wouldn't say at least in the next 10 years, but hey, you can dream big.
I'd say about after Super Bowl 100, you can finally branch out to different countries.
We'll see. So I don't think there's any other NFL or Niners news. So there's your draft recap show here on the Eastman Sport Report. And thank you very much for listening. And we'll probably be back next time talking about some NBA playoffs.
Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you guys later.